The march on Paris continues even in the rain. Hello, everyone. This is Gamer1745 with my continuing playthrough of Strategic Command's World War I, the DLC March on Paris. I really like these DLCs. I hope they do some more. I don't know that they plan on it. Really great. Really enjoyed them. Closer, smaller look at the war, the Ludendorff offensive, or this, like the grand strategy too. But this is good. So we are 2 turns out from the end of the game. We have Paris in sight. Basically, we are seeing units in Paris. So yeah, that's where we're going to continue here, I guess. Right. Okay, they're basically trapped in. Off the rail links with them. Yeah, that's probably what the attack. No, nothing really happened, but okay. Dealing with all of these units being supplied back into there. Question was go there, go there. Not that this really matters, but it's, I'm sure off-putting. It would be off-putting to the human, probably off-putting to the AI. Well, he can make it to here. Let's do that. He can make it to here. Now remember, we can do force. Oh, I haven't said hello, Paul. How you doing? We can do forced marches in our currently controlled territory, but not into enemy territory, which makes sense. Especially if you look at this as, I think this is every 2 days, if I'm not mistaken. Movement rates. If you were moving at night, if you're moving at day, in day, and there's, there would maybe be truly no enemy, but no significant enemy resistance, so that as your main force, a division here is moving down the road, you've got, possibly, I don't know exactly how they were equipped back then, but quite possibly some mounted cavalry as a reconnaissance screen as part of the infantry division. Maybe they were pure infantry. I'm not sure. I know they had horses for like officers and wagons for pulling supplies, equipment, whatever, artillery pieces, whatever. But I don't know if they had, and they would also definitely have on foot, whether you want to call them reconnaissance or what you find a lot more in these days, and it's becoming the waning days of it for sure, but picket forces. And I'm sort of, God, I always wonder how far, in a way I could say, do I dumb this down? How much do I presume you don't know? And I have to take it just from my sort of demographics looking at this. A lot of you, a great majority of you, are into World War II things. So you're I figure you know that fairly well. And I definitely know some of you guys know a whole lot about other periods. Some of you, but not everyone. Pickets. They're sort of a tripwire force, a screening force at times. They don't really constitute a reconnaissance element, but you would put them out around your unit, and you see, you've got to remember, in a way, this is, and this, they use them for a long time, but definitely in the 18th and 19th century. And so you would have, let's say, a battalion somewhere, and if there's like a definable front, because there's battalions to the right and to the left of you, maybe over there you can sort of wave over at with your arms big, but they're not right next to you, but they're sort of over there, and no large force is going to get in between you and them, because you can look over and see them and they can look over and see you. But there's sort of hills, and it's not perfectly flat terrain, and there's trees and whatnot. So you would maybe put like a company out in front of your battalion, one of your companies out in front, and they'd be a picket force. And it's sort of like if the enemy sort of sneaks up on you, or some just surprises you, cavalry comes charging over the hill, and trust me, if you've got a bunch of guys, soldiers, especially in this time, with these weapons, they can't always carry their rifles with them. I mean, as they're marching down the road, sure, but once they stop that, these rifles are big, heavy things, and you don't want to get those rifles dirty. So what they would do is, normally minimum 3, maximum 5 or 6. They would make I'm sure you've seen it, a stack is what they're called. They would stack them, but they're sort of hooked in using sometimes a stacking swivel or other things like that, and so the barrels are pointing up into the sky, sort of like a teepee without any canvas around it, if you will. So you need a minimum 3, sort of like, could be a tripod. I'm sort of trying to use the correct words here, but it could be more. And they're that's sort of stacking it, so that the butt of the gun is in the ground, the barrel's pointed into the air, and so it keeps most of the rifle off the ground, out of the mud, out of the wet. And you stack your guns this way. And this is because you don't want to be like, if you're just sitting there, if you're just sort of sitting there in a group of you, and you're not even allowed to move outside of the group of you, because you might be told at any movement, up, go, march, you're just stopping. Well, if everybody just keeps their guns in their lap, as they sit down or lay down, well, it's going to fall and get in the dirt and whatever else. So you quickly you stack your rifles up. Okay. And so they're sort of locked in together, and they're probably empty, because you don't really walk around even, and I don't mean nothing in the now I don't know how the French did this with those tube magazines, but probably these German soldiers, as they're marching around, are probably marching around with empty guns, so you don't have the misfires. I don't mean not even nothing in the chamber, let alone, or nothing in the magazine, let alone in the chamber. So they're probably walking around with empty guns. They got ammo on their ammo pouches ready to load. And so they're walking around with these empty guns. And if they have the guns in their hand, well, they can probably pretty quickly get the first set of, charge of bullets in there, use the stripper clip and get going. But if they don't have that gun in their hand, and you don't want to, once you're sort of sitting around, because, if they're going to be sitting long enough, well, maybe they're going to start cooking meals, or get meals brought up to them from, the cooks, or they're going to lay down and sleep because they've been walking all night or all day or whatever. Or some of them are off digging latrines because you have 1,000 or 600 or whatever guys show up in this one spot, and you're going to be there for a few hours. Well, where are they all going to poop? You don't want to be stepping in it. You don't want to be sleeping in it. So you quickly you send off a few Fritzes or Jacques or whoever, the French Maurices or whatever, to go dig some latrines and, very quickly do that. And other things, just to, if you're just thinking you're stopping for, half an hour or something, you're not doing that. But if you may be there for 5 or 6 hours before you get told to get up and move again, you start, making camp, if you will, even if you sort of know, in all likelihood, you're going to be moving. Obviously things change, and so you're not, no one's, they may be taking their backpacks off and setting them next to them, maybe stacking them up in a group as well. Especially if they're going to be doing, digging latrines or setting up, making cook fires or whatever they're doing. But the rest of the guys, they may be just using their backpacks as a pillow and, trying to lay down. Well, you don't want that rifle, whether it's mud in the rain here or if it's a nice sunny day, you still don't, and you've oiled it up, you don't want it in the dust. So you stack your rifles, and trust me, horses can move fast. And over a reasonable amount of distance, they can move fast. And they can be in and amongst you before you've gotten formed up, ready. Some guys will get their guns real quick and be shooting, but there will be a lot of horses with a lot of men on them, and whether they're just coming, whether they're just riding into you, literally just, horses crashing through you guys, or, think stampede, like a stampede, which is a bit, more terrifying, stampede of horses, actually terrified horses and not just horses charging at you, but still, it's a deadly thing just on its own, and even horses without riders coming at you. But they may have swords, they may have pistols or carbines or something that are shooting at you. But they're coming in fast. People have got to get their guns, got to load their guns, and got to form up to deal with this, even in this day and age. Because hey, if you got machine guns, what, you think they're set up and ready to start shooting? They're maybe set up ready to travel. Whatever exactly that means in the German army at this time, I don't know, in which machine guns. And obviously, this is obviously a rapidly moving situation. But if you're looking at that, how quickly you're going to get the machine guns ready to go. And the Germans in particular did not really have much in the way of light machine guns. They're mostly the MG08s. The MG08 stroke 15s are barely qualify, so they're a lighter machine gun. I would say they're sort of a medium machine gun that just has a bipod. They used all the Lewis guns they could get their hands on and rechamber to the German caliber. They used all of the Danish Madsen machine guns that they could get, though Denmark didn't. Once the war really got started, they really didn't want to sell too many of them to the combatants. All the ones they can get in the German calibers. They used them what they get, but that's just a small fraction of either of those types. Just a small fraction. Now maybe in the thousands, low thousands of both of those, but not many. So they're not even gonna be able to get the machine guns working in time. And oops, here comes a bunch of horsemen coming at you. Or even just a bunch of men with already loaded guns, bayonets fixed, and shooting at you. So what you do is you set a picket out in front. It's sort of a sacrifice force, if you will, especially if it's a big force, that is supposed to be out there sort of standing to arms, meaning not stacking their guns, meaning they may be laying down, as in prone, maybe ready to shoot, or maybe they're sitting there, but they're, meant to hold their guns, keep their guns, maybe more, depending on the situation, more likely to have their guns loaded. Maybe they're standing around, whatever it is, they're ready to fight while the rest of the guys are doing their thing. And, if they're there long enough, they'll rotate out to some other company and switch out who the pickets are, kind of thing. And they're a tripwire force, and that's how you would do things. You would have picket forces. Generally speaking, it's something like 10% of the force, kind of thing. not really getting more than 25%, and then the higher percentage is often if you had to put like pickets to the different flanks kind of thing out there, depending on the terrain and what your unit. So but as you're this is, I've got the idea of force march versus regular march here. So as this unit is moving along this road here, they have reconnaissance forces that are somehow out in the front of them looking around, preferably in this kind of world on horseback, maybe on bicycle, but running around and looking everywhere as you're going well enough advanced. But what they also do is have, if you will, picket forces, flanking forces sometimes they might be called. So you would maybe put a battalion, and I'm thinking a battalion has well, it depends on how it's organized, how many companies, but let's just say 8 or more companies or whatever in a battalion. Or if it's a division, you still may be putting out companies, or maybe you're putting out a battalion or whatever as your flanking force. So you have one battalion moving. They get started a half an hour or more ahead of obviously real world conditions always come in that make field manual, or whatever you want to call them, the book, whatever you want to call the book, or ideal times will be different. But depending on the source, I'm guessing half an hour to an hour, you want to get the first unit moving out before everybody else. So they're down the road a ways, so they get up and start marching first, and they're going down the road while you're getting all the rest of the guys ready to go, and you're getting the wagons to go. You'll want to designate some troops on either side as a flanking force. Let's say another company. So as the main group is walking down the road, there's the lead element going down the front of you. You'll put some guys to either side of you that will be normally enough that will keep them from ambushing the main unit before they're ready and can get into formation. So they're again sort of a sacrifice force, and it's meant to be big enough that it's not too much of a sacrifice force, because reconnaissance, hopefully, whatever's doing reconnaissance, whether it's an integrated part of this division or the idea of independent cavalry units that are moving around, are hopefully identifying, if it's a division, hopefully identifying any enemy division somewhere. But the idea that there may be a stray company or some other sort of reconnaissance type enemy company or whatever that may be out there, your flanking force is big enough to normally deal with those, enough that they're not like devastated. One company sort of bouncing into another company or getting ambushed by another company, then you're bringing up the rest of the force in very rapid succession to engage this small force and overwhelm it. So, moving with that, or moving with that in through these territories, you can still pretty much, like I say, you get one unit heading out a bit before the rest and whatever. You can get everybody moving out about the same rate, okay? Through lightly held, because what we can see here, up to this line here, there's no enemies that are of the scale of a division. So our reconnaissance is looking in that well enough, we're presuming here by the game functionality here, so we know we can move up. And so we can move about that in about equal rate across either territory and brush off any small screening forces that may still be around. But, big difference here is, for this, and one of the reasons it has this, 65% morale, because it's sort of what they're using as morale penalty. This is like marching through the night. maybe you're still even with March. I don't know if if you keep doing this. One night, skip a night for soldiers, no problem. March all night. March all day, march all night, march all the next day, no problem. And get ready to fight. Yeah, you're going to be morale down. Now we are currently at 83% morale for this unit. So yeah, okay, and it's percent. I'm taking I don't know from the overall. So they'll be pretty low morale, but they'll still be ready to hit one of these really, I don't know what if we have some do we have morale values? Let's see. Okay, see their morale is at 22%. No, we don't know enough. We don't know enough. Direct contact here, 25%. Yeah, we're going to be okay with probably some of our morale, for attacks on some forces, if we do this, So that makes sense, over in your own territory. You're not moving through the darkness, into enemy territory. You're moving in the darkness through territory that's mostly in your hands. So I get the whole idea of this, and you can't just, we're not going to mark, well, he's not even able to, but we're not going to keep doing this all the way with these guys to the front. We're going to try to use railroads to get these guys to the front anyway. So I sort of respect the idea that you can't force march in this game. So now, okay, see what we need to do here is we got a bunch of these guys here just very recently on railways. I think that guy showed up on railways. Okay, we're going to move him to, because a bunch of these other guys can move down this path that are back here. So we're going to move him to here and see that. Yeah, I think so. I know this isn't, it's certainly Paris doesn't necessarily cut him off from supplies, I don't think. But okay, so he's at 62%. Yeah, I don't know that we're going to be able to get in bust into these fortified towns enough. Paris enough speed. We do that. I mean, we won the scenario in the sense of winning, not in overwhelming victory. Okay, let's try to see if we can get up here. Effectively. And yeah, if I step back even further, I might have. Just to get the Victory Hicks, worthy move. He's going to march down here. He's going to come down here. We might be able to use the railways to get troops into here from way back over here. So we'll see about that. Still going to try to move in as much forces as I can to confront Paris. Seeing that this is going to be we taking losses and them not, as likely as not. I don't see a good enough reason to move him into contact if I was hoping for a full 10. This rain is going to be much effect. Okay, well, I think we're going to do that. We're going to do this to support cutting off these forces here. Let's move up the better unit for further pushing. He's at 94% morale. We could get him to there. Yeah, I think that's worth doing. Yeah. Okay, so we have this town here. Let's look for some like divisions, not detachments that are in good shape. Okay, we can rail move you 16. Okay. Here behind the river, close enough to sort of get into there. Let's look up here for a division in pretty good shape. There we go. Now that we have this town, so instead of trying to force march somebody in here and getting that huge morale reduction, they're down here. They got 83 instead of 100, but 102% or whatever. But they're in and in good shape. Okay, that's a division, 4th division. We'll put them down here, but I think again we're going to get into there. Like I said before, I think it was playing this scenario early on, and how fast the AI was shifting units in and out on railways. I think it's a little too quick. Especially like taking this town, and I went through a whole long explanation, sort of like I did for pickets and marching. But what it would take, in my untutored estimation of trying to mount up, getting one of these divisions onto trains and getting them off of trains, and whatnot, and it's a significant thing. And yeah, just a bit much for looking at scale wise. Okay, how let's move them into that zone of control. They're just going to get pounded. The main reason we're moving him down here is just so that we can keep the traffic flowing. Keep the units moving forward. They can't. No, so they come up like that. So close yet so far. They're so close, but not close enough. Morale's too low to try that, but I think and still keep them an effective fighting force. Once they get there, okay, well, you guys can come to here if you're able to operate next time. At least you'll be in the area. Where do we have some more artillery? Sitting about back somewhere. Sure we must. Now we got the one artillery unit up to the front. Not been playing this game too consistently to just know where it all is. No, maybe, okay, we got this guy here. I knew we had one up here. Thought we had two more artillery in somewhere? Or am I thinking of the Ludendorff offensive game, which I know has been a while since I played that, but we got this guy here. He's a bit, yeah. Just got him here because he's gonna, only time we can maybe shoot his next turn and see what we can do. Okay, you, I guess. Yeah, there's whatever town that is there, but Dijon. Uh, yeah, it's move up and dig in. Well, let's see what we can do up here. Okay, 4, 2. How many shots we have? We have 4 rounds. Yeah, let's move them. Let's use them. Okay, so now these guys will move in up here. I'm always gonna. Oh, they can come this way. Yeah. Yeah, they're basically done for. Out of the river, so as I move them forward, well, I guess I'm going to move a couple of these guys down this way. Pattern, layout, whatever. Okay, some of these guys here. Can I? Well, can't. Nope. I don't know why these guys specifically are not. Their bit of railroad isn't. They are connected enough to the system. Okay, well. Excellent condition unit. Nope. Excellent condition division. Yes. He can take turn or whatever, and he can take that Florentine or something next turn to sort of a little better win on victory points. Unit. He can probably stay right where he is. Let's get this guy somewhere forward. Up here, maybe up here. Push on these guys a little bit more, and then we move some guys away from there. But it's just getting it's getting to be obviously. This is plenty of units to take Paris. Just we traffic management and whatnot. We can't get them there in time, but it's enough units to defeat whatever French force is here. That is not in question at this point. It's just a question of more traffic. Well, as much, yeah, because we've a lot of times there was like a hex that here, or wherever it was, there were 3 or 4 units that we could move to here, but there's no stacking, so they're just, and this has been the case obviously for a while, moving up some of these units. We would definitely have more units up here and closer if it wasn't for stacking limitations. I do see, and I know if you've watched the series enough, I don't like their stacking limitations in the game. Particularly that you can't put things like air units or artillery units or other specialty units on top of these. others, especially like for artillery, why can't you just stack it? Not that you're going to and it can even be super vulnerable compared to some of the other stuff. Not that you're going to like attack it as a big stack, or even maybe you could even specify only the best unit defends, but both units, if there's other stuff, depending on how you organize it, takes damage. Just meaning too many troops. But like for traffic management, you can definitely stack in a few more divisions, but I don't mean to have like an impenetrable doom stack moving around. It's just like, well, if you've got 3 divisions stacked up here and one division attacks it, well, only one division gets to defend, but all 3 of them get damage equally, kind of thing. Like, so it's, and you program the AI not to do that along the front lines, and you don't do it along the front lines unless, you think you're only going to be hit by something weak. And so it's a bad situation. So you have stacking penalties and not any benefit for stacking of units for actual combat, but for something like, air units or artillery to make it so you can attack. And maybe you could even make it so that only one unit can attack out of a stack. So you can't like attack with one unit, attack with the next unit, attack with the third unit. It's just more of the idea that if you want to, for movement purposes, road traffic purposes, and it shouldn't be unlimited, but 2-3 divisions for, movement stacking routes, I don't know that would be at this scale, would be a bad thing, and would be a realistic thing, and wouldn't, especially if they're not, if none of them are added to the defense, and it only whatever unit, like if there's one unit specifically that has entrenchment or the best morale unit or the unit with the best readiness or whatever, you look down here, the different stats, pick whatever the best unit is in that stack, and that's the one that fights, but all 2 or 3 of them take damage. That way, you're not, like I say, not creating a doom stack, not creating a tactic situation that people want to use. It just keeps congestion from stifling things unrealistically, in my opinion. And that's again my opinion. Someone, they want to go through and talk me through why. I think it's mostly just game mechanics and not wanting to lose units and whatnot kind of thing that they don't. I don't think it's a necessarily. I mean, there is I think the stacking limitations in the developer's mind. Herbert and I'm forgetting the other guy right now who make the game here. Basically, I mean, they do have some other people that work on elements of, but it's basically 2 guys that build this. And one guy does the AI, does this so pretty good. It's, I'm criticizing it, but this isn't some huge big company that has lots of programmers in this. But I think definitely in their mind is they don't want, whether defending Paris or defending just some random countryside hex, they don't want 2 or 3 divisions all stacked up there defending, because there is various friction elements in combat that it's not even just I was going to say friendly units shooting at each other, but it's just traffic management within it, but just road marching and camping, because in an area, you can dense it up a lot, because figure, hell, this is Paris. Now obviously Paris, there's multi-story buildings, you have a lot more people living in them, but you build a big camp area, you can stack a lot more people, I think, than you are here in the one hex. But that's just sort of some of my ideas how to make this a little better, maybe a lot better, and still keep it basically strategic command. I must say it's one of the things I really love about War Plan, which Alvaro did. I don't know what exactly he did do some work on some of the strategic command games at some point, but I don't know. No, I don't think lots, but some. But he's come out with War Plan, of course, if you know it. And I really love that game, and it addresses to. It doesn't. Well, it definitely has. Sort of like this has picket detachment and main divisions. He definitely has some units there, and then able to stack. And he doesn't have what the Strategic Command World War II games have, is like specialty units that are like a tank destroyer or, a 2 or 3 units that are able to stack. Well, and he doesn't have what the Strategic Command World War II games have, is like specialty units that are like a tank destroyer or, a 2 or 3 units that are able to stack. other engineers or something that at the scale of the game I don't think are appropriately there. He just goes and if you haven't played the game or watching him, you can watch some of the videos. He goes and goes like, well, this division, here, whatever, World War II, but this division you can, add one specialty type of sort of unit trait might be with it, which sort of would be representing like, oh, hey, engineers, yeah, they only have some engineers, but like adding a special engineer unit or adding a lot of anti-tank guns or whatever it might be, adding it to a particular division. And that would, for the engineers, like gives them river crossing benefits and whatever it might be. So he sort of does that, and then totally allows stacking or combining of naval units into a big fleet as a single unit, but he also allows like one air unit and naval units can also be in the same hex, in a port hex. So, but at least like an air unit, and I forget what else, that can stack on the same hex. But you don't want to put an air unit stacked on the same hex if you can help it that's on the front line, because again, that would take frontline casualties, sort of like if, we bump into something there in the base. So, but it does allow some of it to get better. So I really like that feature in it. So Warplane's a great game too. If you're, you want, if it's European war, just because of some of my pet peeves, I sort of got to go to Warplane, the sort of original game, over Strategic Command World War II, the war in Europe. And if you just want the war in the Pacific at this sort of scale and not going for the war in the Pacific, Gary Grigsby's the more detailed one. If you're looking at sort of the Strategic Command Warplane scale, you've got to go with just Warplane, because they're the only ones that have, of these two franchises, the only ones that have a Pacific-centered game. And right now the only one that has a global one would be Strategic Command World at War. Strategic Command World War II, World at War. So if you want this type of thing, but globally, more corps than divisions for most things, you want to go with Strategic Command World at War. So they're good. They're all good. And even when it's talking the same sort of theater, it's close, because each one has some little benefits to it. It's close. Well, I think we're going to end this turn here. Come back next time to see how the Allies face off against us. Thank you, everyone. Again, hit that like button if you want to see more of this game, and not because we're going to finish out this series, a couple more turns here, but see more of whether it's World War I or more Strategic Command and Warplane. Hit that thumbs up button, and of course, post your comments below. Like what games that you want to see me do. Either continue the series, or because hey, if people show interest, I'm more likely to continue something than something that nobody shows any interest in. So tell me what you want to see. Thanks, everyone.